The alien warship drifted quietly above Earth's orbit, its black hull shining against the sun. From far away, it looked like a moving shadow, a predator circling its prey. Inside the ship, Captain Veyron watched the blue planet on the screen. His thin lips curled in a smile. To him, Earth was nothing more than a primitive world, filled with fragile animals who walked on two legs and used fire like children playing with toys. The alien empire had heard strange signals coming from Earth, radio waves, broadcasts fragments of songs and voices. Some thought it was only noise. But Veyron knew better. Where there was noise, there was life. And where there was life, there was conquest. "Prepare the landing squad," he ordered. His voice was cold and sharp, like steel cutting through air. "We will take samples of these." Humans, the soldiers obeyed. Tall, armored, and confident, they walked like hunters ready to trap their prey. None of them felt fear. In their minds, this mission was simple. They had crushed empires greater than this. What could weak creatures from a small blue planet do? The landing craft touched down on a quiet patch of farmland in the middle of the night. The air smelled of earth and grass. Crickets sang. A few cows lifted their heads and stared with wide eyes, then bolted into the distance as the ship's ramp lowered. Veyron's soldiers stepped out. Their armor glowed faintly in the dark. Their weapons hummed with energy. In the distance, the lights of a small town flickered, unaware of what was coming. The soldiers moved quickly. Within minutes, they had captured a group of humans, 5 in total. Among them were a young woman, an old farmer, a teenage boy, and 2 workers returning home late at night. The humans struggled, but the aliens' strength and technology were too much. Shackled and frightened, the humans were dragged toward the ship. Veyron stepped forward, his tall figure looming. His eyes glowed with curiosity and disdain. "So these are the humans," he muttered. "Small, weak, fragile, they will not last long." He expected begging, tears, and fear. He expected them to collapse under the weight of hopelessness. But what he saw made him pause. The old farmer, hair gray and face wrinkled from years of labor under the sun, did not bow his head. His back was straight, his eyes fixed on the alien captain. He was breathing hard, but there was no fear in his voice when he finally spoke. "You think we're weak?" the farmer said. His voice was rough but steady. "But you don't know us. We've seen worse monsters than you." The soldiers shifted uncomfortably. They expected cries, not defiance. Veyron raised a brow, curious. "Worse monsters?" He repeated, amused. "What could be worse than us?" The farmer's lips curled into a faint smile. "Ourselves," he said simply. "We've survived wars that tore our world apart. We've buried children and still built cities. We've faced plagues, hunger, fire, and death, and yet here we stand. You think you scare us? You don't even come close." Silence filled the night. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. The young woman beside the farmer added, her eyes burning with quiet rage, "Take us if you want. But don't mistake silence for weakness. We endure. That is what makes us human." For the first time, Captain Veyron did not smile. Something stirred in his chest, something he had not felt in many years. Unease. He had studied thousands of conquered species. Most fell to their knees at the sight of alien power. Most begged for their lives. But these humans, bound and powerless, stood tall in their own way. It was not strength of body he saw. It was something else. Something harder to crush. Veyron stepped closer to the old farmer, his shadow covering him. He expected the man to flinch, to look away. But the farmer did not move. His eyes stayed locked on the alien captains. "You will regret those words," Veyron said, his tone dark. "When you are in my ship under my control, we will see how long you endure." The farmer did not reply. He only stared, unbroken. The humans were dragged into the ship. The ramp closed. The night became silent again, as if nothing had happened. But in that silence, something powerful had been planted. The first seed of doubt. High above Earth, the alien warship turned, engines roaring as it left the atmosphere. The small town slept, unaware that some of its people were already prisoners in the cold belly of a vessel not of this world. Inside the ship, Captain Veyron stood alone in the command chamber, staring at the planet below. He should have felt triumph. Instead, he felt a whisper of something unfamiliar, an edge of fear. "These humans," he murmured. "They are not what I expected." And deep inside, though he did not admit it, he wondered if the Empire had finally found a race too stubborn, too dangerous to conquer easily. The warship disappeared into the stars. An Earth story, the story of how humanity would face the galaxy, had just begun. The alien warship moved through the dark silence of space, its engines burning softly against the void. Inside its massive halls, the humans were locked in a cold chamber of metal. Bright lights glared down on them. The walls hummed with energy and the floor was smooth and lifeless. The 5 humans sat together, still bound at their wrists. They did not speak at first. The old farmer leaned against the wall, breathing slowly, his face calm but watchful. The young woman sat with her back straight, her eyes sharp as if memorizing every corner of the room. The teenage boy's hands trembled, but he clenched his fists, refusing to cry. The 2 workers whispered to each other in low voices, sharing small words of comfort. They were frightened, yes, but they were not broken. Captain Veyron entered the chamber with 2 guards. His tall frame cast a long shadow across the floor. The guards stood like statues, weapons in their hands, eyes glowing faintly behind their helmets. Veyron studied the prisoners with cold interest. "You are aboard the vessel of the Veyari Empire," he announced. His voice echoed in the chamber, deep and metallic. "You will be tested. You will be studied. If you cooperate, your suffering may be lessened. If not, you will learn pain in ways your kind has never known." He expected fear. He expected screams, begging, or desperate promises. Instead, silence filled the room. Only the sound of human breathing echoed softly. The old farmer lifted his head and met Veyron's eyes again. "Do what you want," he said quietly. "We've been through worse." The guards shifted, uneasy. It was unnatural. No other species spoke like this in the presence of the Veyari. Later, the humans were separated. Each was placed in a different chamber for observation. Bright machines scanned their bodies. Needles pricked their skin. Strange fluids tested their blood. Veyron watched through the glass. The teenage boy was strapped to a table as a machine increased the weight, pressing down on his chest. It was meant to measure endurance. Veyron expected the boy to cry out, to beg them to stop. Instead, the boy clenched his teeth, sweat running down his forehead. His lips shook, but he whispered words to himself. "Hold on. Don't give them the pleasure." He lasted longer than some adult alien soldiers could. In another chamber, the young woman was made to stand on one leg with electric shock striking her balance. The test measured coordination under stress. She fell, stood again, fell, and stood again. Her arms shook, but her eyes blazed. "You think this breaks me?" she hissed. "You don't know what it's like to fight for food in the middle of winter." In yet another chamber, the 2 workers were given mental tests. Screens flashed puzzles and problems in strange symbols. The aliens believed humans could not understand. But the workers whispered to each other through the glass, pointing, sharing quick guesses. They made mistakes, but they adapted. They learned patterns. One alien scientist blinked in shock as the humans solved a puzzle that took other species hours, by sheer cooperation. And the old farmer? His test was simple: isolation. He was left in darkness, alone, with no sound but his own breathing. It was meant to break the mind. Hours passed. Then more hours. When the door finally opened, the farmer was still sitting calmly on the floor, humming an old song. Veyron stared at the reports with growing unease. The results did not match his expectations. Humans did not collapse easily. They adapted. They endured. And they did it with something he could not explain. That night, in the quiet halls of the ship, 2 alien scientists spoke in hushed tones. One of them, a young researcher named Relas, could not hide his curiosity. "These humans," Relas said softly, looking at the data, "they are not the weakest. They are the strongest I have ever seen." The older scientist hissed at him. "Careful with your words. The captain believes they are dangerous. If he hears admiration in your tone, it could mean your death." "But look," Relas insisted, pointing at the numbers. "Pain tolerance beyond expected levels. Adaptability to new tasks. Cooperation under stress. They don't just survive tests. They learn from them." The older scientist frowned but said nothing more. Still, a seed of doubt had taken root in his mind as well. Meanwhile, in their chamber, the humans were returned to one another. Their faces were pale, their bodies tired, but their spirits had not been crushed. The young woman sat beside the farmer. "They wanted to see weakness," she whispered. "But we gave them something else." The farmer nodded slowly. His eyes were heavy but steady. "They think strength is in muscle and weapons. But true strength is here." He tapped his chest. "In the will to keep standing." The teenage boy leaned forward, whispering urgently, "We can't just sit here. We need to find a way out." The group exchanged looks. Something unspoken passed between them. Fear was still there, yes, but beside it now stood something stronger: resolve. The humans began to whisper plans, sharing ideas in low voices that the guards outside could not hear. They noticed patterns in the guards' patrols. They studied the doors, the panels, the machines. They began to think not like prisoners, but like survivors. And above all, they began to prepare. Captain Veyron watched from his chamber, unaware of their whispers, but still uneasy. For the first time in many years, he felt as though the Empire had underestimated its prey. These humans, he muttered under his breath, they bend, but they do not break. And deep inside, a question rose in his mind, a question that unsettled him more than any enemy ever had. What happens when prey decides to fight back? The warship drifted silently in the endless dark, a fortress of steel among the stars. Inside, Captain Veyron sat in his command chamber, staring at the glowing reports. He expected to see proof of weakness. Instead, he saw numbers that disturbed him. Pain resistance high. Adaptability rapid. Cooperation unusual. Emotional resilience extreme. Every line spoke of creatures who should not exist. Creatures who should not have survived their own world, yet somehow had. In the research bay, young scientist Relas studied the humans with wide, curious eyes. He had been assigned to gather cultural data. To him, culture was often the clearest window into the soul of a species. He activated the machines that replayed fragments of Earth's signals, those strange radio waves the humans had unknowingly sent into the stars. At first, the sounds were chaotic. Music of many kinds, voices in hundreds of languages, angry speeches, gentle prayers, laughter, and crying. Relas listened, confused but fascinated. Then the images came, video transmissions captured from Earth. Relas expected simple hunting scenes or primitive rituals. Instead, he saw tanks rolling across fields, bombs falling from the sky, men and women fighting in trenches filled with mud. He saw cities burning and then rising again from the ashes. He saw firestorms, floods, and plagues that wiped out millions and people who endured through them all. One image froze on the screen. A soldier carrying another soldier through a battlefield while shells exploded all around them. Relas whispered to himself, "They walk through death itself. And they still carry each other." The older scientist beside him hissed, "Turn that off. We are not here to admire them." But Relas did not turn away. The more he studied, the more he saw a pattern. Humans did not just survive disaster, they learned from it. Every war, every plague, every famine left them stronger, sharper, more determined. Later, Captain Veyron summoned Relas. "Report," Veyron demanded, his eyes sharp. Relas hesitated before speaking. "Captain, humans are not like the others we have conquered. They have faced destruction again and again, yet they endure. Their history is brutal. They should have perished long ago, but they did not. I believe their strength is not in their bodies, but in their will." Veyron narrowed his eyes. "Are you suggesting these creatures are dangerous?" Relas swallowed hard. "Yeah, and no. Dangerous because they do not fear death as we expect, but also fascinating. Captain, they are survivors. The more you press them, the harder they become." Veyron said nothing for a long moment. His gaze shifted to the window where Earth glowed far below, beautiful and fragile. "Every species believes it is special," he muttered. "But in the end, all of them kneel. These humans will be no different." But even as he spoke, he was not certain. Meanwhile, in their chamber, the humans shared whispers of their past. The guards believed they were only speaking for comfort, but in truth they were teaching each other courage. The teenage boy asked the farmer, "Why didn't you beg when they first caught us?" The farmer's eyes were steady. "Because fear feeds them, but hope feeds us," the young woman added. "They think power is in weapons, but I've seen people survive with nothing but bare hands. We have scars that teach us to keep standing. They don't understand that." One of the workers leaned forward. "Do you think we can escape?" The farmer's lips curled into a faint smile. "Every prison has a door, and every door has a key. The trick is finding it." For the first time since their capture, the humans laughed quietly together. It was not the laughter of joy, but of defiance. Relas, still curious, requested permission to conduct further cultural tests. Veyron allowed it. So Relas brought a screen into the chamber and played recordings of Earth's history for the prisoners. He wanted to see how they reacted. He showed them images of wars, disasters, and death. He expected shame, sadness, or denial. Instead, the humans nodded slowly as if recognizing old friends. The young woman said, "Yes, this is us. Ugly, isn't it? But we are still here. That is what matters," the boy muttered. "We've always been fighting, even against ourselves." Relos tilted his head. "Does it not pain you to see such destruction?" The farmer's voice was calm. "Of course it does. But pain is part of living. You don't run from it. You carry it." Those words struck Relos like a blade. Carry it. In all his studies of alien races, none had spoken like this. Most species avoided pain at all costs. Humans embraced it, endured it, and learned from it. When Relos reported back, Veyron's patience thinned. "Enough of this admiration," the captain snapped. "You speak of them as if they are legends. They are only flesh and bone, nothing more." Relos bowed his head but said quietly, "Sometimes, Captain, legends begin with flesh and bone." Veyron's eyes darkened. "Careful, scientist. Do not let their stubbornness infect you." But deep in his heart, Veyron knew the truth was not so simple. Something about these humans unsettled him. Something told him the Empire had underestimated them. That night, as the ship sailed further from Earth, the humans huddled in their chamber, whispering plans and watching every detail of their prison. They were tired, wounded, and unarmed, yet their eyes still burned with a light no alien could understand. It was not the light of strength or technology. It was the light of survival, and soon that light would ignite into something far more dangerous. The warship's halls were endless tunnels of metal, glowing faintly with blue light. Doors hissed open and closed as guards marched in silence. Machines hummed in every corner, alive with power beyond human understanding. To most prisoners, the ship was a perfect cage, but not to humans. Inside their chamber, the farmer, the young woman, the teenage boy, and the two workers sat close together. Their voices were low, careful, just above a whisper. For days they had studied the guards. They had counted steps, measured pauses, memorized the sound of boots against the floor. They had watched the panels by the door flicker with lights, searching for patterns. Humans had nothing but their eyes, ears, and minds. Yet that was enough. The young woman leaned forward. "Every 6 minutes the guards switch. That gives us a small window." The boy nodded quickly. "The panel by the door, when it turns green, the lock weakens for a second. I saw it when they brought food." One of the workers whispered, "But what can we use? We have nothing." The farmer reached into his sleeve and revealed a small shard of metal. It was no bigger than a fingernail, but it gleamed faintly. "Picked it up when they moved us last time," he said. "Sometimes the smallest tool is enough." The group stared at the shard. In that moment, it was more than metal. It was hope. That night, the plan began. The lights in the hall dimmed to the ship's version of night. The guards outside stood tall, their weapons glowing. Inside, the humans waited, hearts pounding in silence. The green light flickered on the door panel. "Now," the farmer whispered. The shard slid into the panel's gap. Sparks jumped. The door hissed. For a second, nothing happened. Then the lock clicked softly. The young woman pushed. The door shifted open just enough for them to slip through. One by one, the humans stepped into the hall, their breath sharp and quick. The boy's hands shook, but the farmer laid a hand on his shoulder. "Steady," he said. "Fear only slows you down." The hall stretched before them, quiet and endless. They moved quickly, hugging the walls, listening for footsteps. Every sound echoed like thunder in their ears. Then footsteps came, heavy, close. The humans ducked behind a corner just as two guards marched past. Their glowing eyes swept the hall, but they did not see the shadows holding their breath inches away. The boy pressed his back against the wall, his heart hammering. The young woman held his hand tightly until the guards passed. Only when the sound faded did they move again. They reached a storage chamber. Inside were strange alien tools, glowing panels and containers filled with unknown substances. The humans searched quickly. One worker grabbed a long metal rod. Another found thin wires and stuffed them into his pocket. The boy picked up a tool that buzzed when he pressed it. He did not know what it was, but he kept it. The farmer's eyes scanned the shelves until he found what looked like a mask. He placed it over his face. The air smelled sharper, cleaner. "Breathing gear," he muttered. "Could be useful." Every item became a weapon, every object a chance. Humans had always been this way, turning scraps into survival, but alarms broke the silence. A sharp rising scream echoed through the halls. The door behind them glowed red. "They know," the young woman hissed. "The guards were coming." The farmer lifted the rod in his hands. His face was calm, his eyes steady. "Run," he said. "If they catch me, keep moving." "No," the boy said fiercely. "We stay together." The farmer's lips curled into the faintest smile. "Then fight smart, not hard." The first guard burst in, tall and armored. He raised his glowing weapon. Before he could fire, the young woman swung the rod with all her strength. The blow cracked against the guard's helmet. The alien staggered, stunned by the unexpected attack. The boy shoved the buzzing tool into the guard's side. Sparks flew and the alien howled, collapsing to the floor. The humans grabbed the guard's weapon. It was heavy, strange, and glowing, but it was theirs now. The second guard appeared. The farmer aimed the weapon, hands trembling slightly, and fired. A flash of blue light shot across the room, striking the guard and throwing him against the wall. The humans stared in shock at the smoking alien body. For the first time, they held alien power in their hands. The alarms grew louder. Voices echoed in the halls, calling in the alien tongue. More guards were coming. The young woman's eyes blazed. "We can't go back. We go forward," the farmer nodded. "Forward, always." Together, they ran into the unknown halls of the ship, carrying stolen weapons, stolen tools, and a fire in their hearts that no alien had ever seen before. Behind them, Captain Veyron stood in the command chamber, watching the alarms spread across the screens. His jaw tightened. "They escaped?" he growled. "Yes, Captain," an officer stammered. "They killed 2 guards and now they are loose in the ship." Veyron's eyes narrowed, filled with something between anger and respect. "So, the prey has teeth." He leaned forward, his voice low and dangerous. "Hunt them. But remember this, do not underestimate them again." In the metal halls of the alien warship, 5 humans ran for their lives. They were unarmed, wounded, and hunted, but their spirits burned brighter than any star. And for the first time, the Veyari Empire was about to learn what it truly meant when humans refused to kneel. The alien command council sat in silence. The tall beings, covered in their silver robes, had never faced such confusion before. They were creatures of order, logic, and control. For thousands of years, their empire had conquered world after world, bending races into submission. But now, for the first time, they found themselves shaken by humans. It began with Daniel, the soldier who had resisted their experiments. His body had been broken, yet his will had remained strong. Then came Leon, the mechanic, whose cleverness had turned simple tools into weapons that disrupted alien machines. And now countless humans were showing the same strange force, this spirit that no weapon could crush. The aliens called it defiance. But among humans, it had a different name: hope. Inside the prison camp, Daniel slowly regained strength. The aliens had tried to weaken him, but his fellow prisoners had taken care of him. They shared food, whispered encouragement, and kept him alive when his body wanted to give up. Every human in the camp now looked at him differently. "He stood when no one else could," one whispered. "They can break our bodies, but they cannot break who we are," another said. Daniel did not feel like a hero. He still carried scars, and nightmares haunted his sleep. But when he saw the spark in their eyes, he realized something important. His suffering had become their strength. Meanwhile, Leon had escaped the alien base with a small group. He guided them through the dark forests, using his knowledge of machines to evade patrol drones. At night, he spoke softly to the group. "They think we are weak," he told them, "but weakness is not the same as defeat. We survive because we adapt. We fight because we care for one another. That is what makes us dangerous to them." His words carried weight. Each day, the group grew stronger. They were not soldiers, yet they followed him because he gave them direction. Even in the silence of the alien night, when fear wrapped around their hearts, his voice reminded them why they had to keep going. Far above, in the alien flagship, Commander Sethar studied reports. He was a warrior respected across the Empire, feared for his victories, yet his sharp mind saw a dangerous pattern forming. "These humans," he said to his second-in-command, "do not submit like others. They fight when they should surrender. They inspire one another. If this continues, even our technology will not guarantee victory." His officer shifted uneasily. "But they are still primitive, Commander. They have no fleets, no great weapons." Sithar's eyes narrowed. "Do not mistake weapons for strength. True strength is born in the heart, and that they have in abundance. The Empire began testing new strategies. They increased control, applied more fear, and used harsher punishments. But each act only deepened human resistance. When an alien patrol burned a village, survivors rebuilt together. When soldiers tried to force silence, humans sang louder. When hope seemed impossible, small acts of kindness kept it alive. The aliens could not understand this. In their culture, weakness meant death. Among humans, weakness meant helping one another stand again. Daniel and Leon's paths soon crossed. Leon's group of escapees was captured again and brought to the same camp where Daniel was held. The reunion was quiet but powerful. "You survived," Daniel said, gripping Leon's hand. "And you endured," Leon answered with a tired smile. They sat together and shared their stories. Daniel told how hope spread through the prisoners. Leon explained how escapees were learning to resist in secret. Both realized that their fight was no longer about survival alone. It was about showing the aliens that humanity would never kneel. One night, in the shadows of the camp, Daniel spoke to the group. "They think they control us, but every day we prove them wrong. Every time we whisper when they demand silence. Every time we share when they demand selfishness. Every time we hope when they want us hopeless. That is our weapon. That is why they fear us." The group listened in silence, then nodded. His words lit a fire that no alien chain could extinguish. In the council chambers, the alien leaders grew restless. Reports spoke of uprisings, escapes, and unbroken spirits. Their empire, built on fear, was beginning to show cracks. Commander Scythar watched the council argue. For the first time in his long career, he wondered if conquest had met its limit. Not because of weapons, not because of numbers, but because of a single stubborn truth. Humans would not break. The story of resistance was spreading across the stars. Other enslaved races whispered about the humans, telling tales of defiance. The legend grew, of a people who, though small and fragile, stood tall before giants. And in the cold darkness of space, a question began to echo. If the humans can resist, why can't we? The prison camp had once been filled with silence and despair. Now whispers of hope traveled through the fences like fire carried by the wind. The guards did not notice it at first, but the humans were no longer the same. They looked at each other with quiet determination instead of fear. Daniel felt it too. Every day he saw more signs. Prisoners shared food instead of hiding it. They worked together, repairing small tools when the aliens were not looking. They spoke to each other in code, hidden beneath songs and stories. What began as survival was slowly becoming resistance. Leon had not given up his skills either. Inside the camp, he studied every machine the aliens used. He learned how the gates opened, how the patrol drones charged, and where the power cables were hidden. The aliens thought their technology was too advanced for humans to understand. They were wrong. One night, under the dim moonlight, Leon whispered to Daniel. "I know how to cut the power grid," he said. Daniel's eyes widened. "If you do that, the drones will shut down." "Not forever," Leon explained, "but long enough. Long enough to move." For the first time, Daniel felt the possibility of escape was real, not just a dream whispered among the prisoners. Meanwhile, far above on the flagship, Commander Scythar read another troubling report. Humans refuse to submit, the report said. Punishment increases only fuel more defiance. Uprisings are beginning in other colonies. Scythar frowned. His advisors demanded harsher measures. Burn their cities, silence their leaders, destroy their hope. But he knew something the council did not. Violence was not stopping humans. It was forging them. In the camp, Daniel gathered a small circle of trusted prisoners. They crouched low, speaking in hushed voices. "The aliens believe they own us," Daniel said. "But what they don't understand is that they can never own our spirit. We will fight, not with their weapons, but with what makes us human." The group nodded. They had little more than courage and scraps of metal hidden in the dirt. But courage was enough to start. Leon added, "We wait for the signal. When the lights go out, we move. Until then, we keep preparing." The plan was simple. Too simple, maybe. But humans had always turned simple plans into impossible victories. The night came sooner than expected. The aliens had brought in more prisoners, beaten and weak, and the camp's energy field flickered for the first time in months. Leon saw the opportunity. "This is it," he whispered. Using a piece of stolen wire, he tapped into the power junction hidden near the mess hall. Sparks flew and the hum of the energy grid stuttered. One by one, the lights across the camp blinked out. For a moment, silence ruled the night. Then came Daniel's voice. Now! Move! The camp erupted into chaos. Humans rushed from their barracks, shoving past stunned guards. Some grabbed tools, others stones, anything they could find. The drones tried to activate, but without power, they fell uselessly to the ground. Daniel led a group through the front gates, which sagged open when the grid collapsed. Leon guided others toward the supply shed, grabbing stolen food and medical packs. Shouts filled the night as guards tried to restore control. But something had changed. The prisoners were no longer prisoners, they were fighters. Not everyone escaped. Some stayed behind to delay the guards, buying time for the others. Others fell in the struggle, but even in their final moments they shouted words of defiance. For humanity, we are not weak. The aliens, for all their weapons, found themselves overwhelmed by sheer determination. Fearless humans charged at them with bare hands, refusing to kneel. By dawn, dozens of humans had escaped into the forests beyond the camp. Daniel, Leon, and the others collapsed in exhaustion, but their eyes burned with something the aliens could never steal: freedom. "This is only the beginning," Daniel said, his voice hoarse but steady. Leon nodded. "We have shown them what humans can do. Now others will rise too." And indeed they did. Across the stars, stories of the breakout spread. Other human camps began to resist. In some places, they refused to work. In others, they broke their chains and fought back. Even enslaved alien races began to listen. "If humans can fight the Empire," they whispered, "why can't we?" The rebellion was no longer just an idea. It was alive. It was spreading. And the Empire could feel its grip loosening, one spark at a time. Back on the flagship, Commander Scyther received the report of the breakout. He read it carefully, then closed his eyes. "They were supposed to be weak," he muttered, "but weakness has become their strength." For the first time in his life, the great commander felt a shiver of doubt. He was not afraid of human weapons. He was afraid of the one thing no empire could ever control: the human spirit. The Empire was no longer silent. Across its countless worlds, whispers had grown into voices and voices into roars. Everywhere, the same words spread like fire: "Humans do not bow." It began with small uprisings. A guard overpowered here, a supply ship hijacked there. But soon the sparks connected, forming a great flame that even the Empire could not ignore. In the forests beyond the prison camp, Daniel and Leon's group had grown. Escaped humans joined them, and even a few aliens, slaves of the Empire who had seen enough cruelty, now stood at their side. A tall reptilian alien named Korath spoke one night as they gathered around a small fire. "My people believed resistance was useless," he said in his deep voice. "But when I saw you humans fight, even with nothing in your hands, I realized something. You fight not only for yourselves, but for each other. That is strength the Empire fears." Daniel looked at him and simply nodded. The rebellion was no longer just human. It was becoming something bigger. Meanwhile, Commander Scyther stood on the bridge of his flagship, staring at a hologram filled with red marks, each one a site of uprising. His officers shouted for harsher measures, demanding extermination. "No," Scyther said at last. His voice was calm but heavy. "We have already given them the one thing we never should have: a reason to fight." He remembered the human eyes he had seen in reports. Fragile bodies, yes, but eyes that burned with fire. He knew this war was no longer about control. It was about belief, and the humans had already won that part. The first great battle came when Daniel and Leon's group attacked a supply convoy. With stolen weapons and improvised explosives, they struck fast, disabling alien transports and freeing hundreds of captives. The captives did not run. They joined. The rebellion swelled with new fighters, spreading like a storm. Daniel found himself giving orders, though he had never wanted to be a leader. "Strike their machines. Free the prisoners. Show no fear." Leon became the mind of the group, building traps, hacking alien tech, and turning scraps into weapons. The two men, once strangers, now carried the weight of hope for countless lives. News traveled fast. Across alien worlds, humans rose up. They refused to work. They sabotaged machines. They inspired others to resist. The Empire had never seen anything like it. Whole fleets were forced to retreat, not by weapons of mass destruction, but by unshakable courage and unity. Even enslaved alien races began joining openly. "If the humans fight, we fight," they said. The rebellion was no longer a spark. It had become a wildfire. The final clash came above a captured human colony. The Empire sent its war fleet to crush the rebellion once and for all. The sky filled with massive alien ships, their weapons glowing like suns. On the ground, Daniel and Leon stood with thousands of rebels, humans and aliens together. Many held stolen blasters, some only had spears or knives, but all of them carried the same fire in their hearts. As the first wave of enemy fire lit up the sky, Daniel raised his voice. "They thought we were weak," he shouted, the words echoing across the battlefield. "But we are not weak, we are human. And today they will see what that means." A thunderous roar answered him. The battle was chaos. Alien machines rained destruction, but humans fought with fury and cunning. Leon's traps brought down walkers. Korath and his alien allies tore through enemy lines. Daniel led charges that broke the morale of troops who had never seen such fearless resistance. For every human who fell, 2 more rose. For every loss, the rebellion grew stronger. The Empire's weapons could kill bodies, but they could not kill the idea that had already taken root: freedom. In the end, the Empire's fleet pulled back. Commander Scythar himself ordered the retreat. His officers protested, but he silenced them. "Look at them," he said, watching humans raise their banners over the smoking battlefield. "We can destroy their cities. We can kill their leaders, but we cannot kill their spirit. That is why this war is already lost." When the dust settled, Daniel stood among the survivors. The battlefield was scarred, but the people stood tall. Humans embraced one another, and alien allies bowed in respect. Leon came to stand at his side, exhaustion written on his face, but a smile breaking through. "You see, Daniel," he said quietly, "they thought we were weak, but weakness is only the beginning of strength." Daniel looked at the crowd of humans and aliens united. "No," he said softly, "this is not weakness. This is what it means to be human." And so the story spread across the stars. The Empire had tried to conquer humanity. Instead, humanity had shown the Empire something it had never known. A force stronger than weapons, stronger than fear, the human spirit. And from that day forward, the galaxy would never forget it.